Okay, welcome back in. I'm now going to be reviewing Tuesday's action from the NHL as the regular season is slowly winding down. Starting with an original six matchup as these two teams did a back to back. First, they played in Detroit, and then Tuesday, they played in Montreal as the Red Wings and the Canadiens were both finishing off their season. The Red Wings were still fighting for a playoff spot, while Montreal knew a few games back that they were not going to be participating in the postseason. So in the first period, Alex Newhook would kick things off, getting his 15th goal of the season from Brendan Gallagher and Logan Mailloux. And that goal happened with 8 minutes and 28 seconds to go on the clock. Sider would tie the game up with a minute and a half to go, getting his ninth goal of the season, assisted by Larkin and Lucas Raymond. In the second period, Brendan Gallagher would get his 16th goal of the season, giving the Montreal Canadiens a 2-1 lead. For Gallagher, again, his 16th of the season from Armia and Struble. Cole Caulfield would increase the lead to 3-1 with 9 minutes and 51 seconds to go on the clock. For Caulfield, that'd be his 28th goal of the season, assisted by Slavkovsky and Nick Suzuki. I absolutely love that line, but maybe I'm a little biased being a Montreal fan. Valina would cut the deficit to 3-2, just 36 seconds after that. For Valino, that'd be his 12th goal of the season from Shane Gothisberg and Daniel Sprong. So after 40 minutes of play, Montreal Canadiens were holding on to a 3-2 lead. Sprong would get on the goal scorer sheet himself, 3 minutes and 31 seconds in the frame, tying the game up at 3. Slavkovsky would give the Montreal Canadiens a 4-3 lead. For Slavkovsky, that'd be his 20th goal of the season, assisted by Lane Hudson and David Savard. And that goal happened with 7 minutes and 14 seconds to go on the clock. David Perron would strike with just 5 seconds to go, so Montreal almost had this game in the bag, but then Perron would tie the game up, getting his 17th goal of the season, assisted by Shane Gothisberg. This game would need extra time to be settled. Nothing would be settled in overtime. We have to go to a shootout where Patrick Kane would get the game-winning goal, and the Detroit Red Wings would win the back-to-back games over Montreal, still holding on for dear life for a postseason berth. So with that, Detroit's finished the season with a record of 41, 32, and 9, and Montreal finished with a record of 30, 36, and 16. Hey, at least they got 30 wins. That's exactly what I asked for. So here's hoping next year maybe we can get 35 wins. Alrighty. The next game took place between the Boston Bruins and the Ottawa Senators. So the season finale for both of these teams as well. The Senators had really nothing to play for, while the Boston Bruins had lots to play for. A win, and they'd be guaranteed to get first place in the Atlantic Division. A loss, and they'd still be fighting for first place as well. So there's no scoring in the first. We have to jump ahead to the second period where, oh wow, if I can pronounce this name correctly, Smedjakal will get his first career goal for the Ottawa Senators, assisted by Bramstrom. And that goal happened with 9 minutes and 57 seconds to go. Jacob Chechurkin would make it 2-0, getting his 14th goal of the season from Batherson and Brady Tkachuk. And that goal happened with just 9 minutes and 6 seconds to go on the clock. After 40 minutes of play, the Senators had a 2-0 lead. In the third period, Pavel Zacha would get the Boston Bruins on the board. For Zacha, that'll be his 21st goal of the season from Shattenkirk and David Pastrnak. A power play goal with 7 minutes and 16 seconds to go. Arden Zub would increase the lead to 3-1 with a short-handed empty net goal with a minute and 48 seconds to go. The Senators would escape with a 3-1 win. So they would finish the season off with a record of 37, 41, and 4. Quite disappointing for a team that I believe had playoff aspirations this year. Who knows? Maybe next year they can surprise us. And after the loss, the Bruins were still hanging on to that first place spot, but barely, with a record of 47, 20, and 15. Alrighty. The Carolina Hurricanes took on the Columbus Blue Jackets. So I'll get those teams' logos up on the screen, and we'll do a review of how this one went. So the Blue Jackets were eliminated, I want to say, months ago, And the Hurricanes had very little or to nothing to play for, as they do have the number 2 seed locked in the Metropolitan Division. So in the first period, if I pronounce this name correctly, I believe a lot of teams are just playing guys that are in the minors because I guarantee I've never read this name before. So I got a funny feeling this is his first career NHL goal. Del Bel Baluz would start things off in the first, getting his first career goal, assisted by Pythia and Zach Werenski, 3 minutes and 37 seconds in the opening frame. Speaking of Werenski, he'd get on the goal score sheet himself, getting his 10th goal of the season from Sillinger and Marchenko, 5 minutes and 24 seconds of the opening frame. Jesperi Kotkaniemi would get the Hurricanes their first goal of the game. For Kotkaniemi, that'd be his 12th goal of the season, assisted by Comtois and Noisen, 7 minutes and 10 seconds of the first. Teravainen would tie the game up with 1 minute and 44 seconds to go. For Teravainen, that'd be his 24th goal of the season, assisted by Kotkaniemi and Brett Burns. Malatista would get his second goal of the season, giving the Blue Jackets a late 3-2 lead with just 59 seconds to go, assisted by Olivier and Sean Corrali. So after 20 minutes of play, the Blue Jackets had a 3-2 lead. In the second period, Teravainen would get his second goal of the game, his 25th of the season, from Brett Burns and Scott Noisen, a power play goal with 9 minutes and 44 seconds to go. Johnny Gaudreau would give the Blue Jackets a 4-3 lead. For Gaudreau, that'd be his 12th goal of the season from Danforth and Zach Werenski, and that goal happened with 7 minutes and 42 seconds to go. So after 40 minutes of play, the Blue Jackets had a 4-3 lead. In the third period, Nylander would increase lead to 5-3, getting his 11th goal of the season, assisted by Gudbranson and Provorov. That was just 47 seconds in the third period. Zach Werenski would strike late in the third period. For Werenski, that would be his 11th goal of the season, assisted by Olivier and Gudbranson. And that goal happened with just 39 seconds to go in the game. So with the win, the Blue Jackets finished the season with a record of 27, 43, and 12, last in the Eastern Conference. And after the loss, the Hurricanes again finished second in the Metropolitan Division with a record of 52, 23, and 7. Alrighty, now we're off to Philly, where we had the Flyers taking on the Washington Capitals. Now this was a very bizarre game, as both of these teams were trying to get into the playoffs. A win, and I believe Philly was in, and a win for Washington, and I believe they were in. So a very crucial game for both of these teams, as this was the last game for both of these teams, respectively. Okay, so in the first period, Alex Ovechkin would open up the scoring with just 1 minute and 52 seconds to go. For Ovechkin, that would be his 31st goal of the season, assisted by McIlrath and TJ Oshie. Eric Johnson would tie the game up in the second period. For Johnson, that would be his 5th goal of the season from Zamula and Sean Couturier, and that goal happened with 7 minutes and 31 seconds to go. Now, this is what really puzzled me, is I don't know if the Flyers were unaware the game was tied, but they pulled the goalie with over 3 minutes to go, and TJ Oshie would get a game-winning goal, an empty net goal, with exactly 3 minutes to go on the clock. For Oshie, that'd be his 12th goal of the season, assisted by Nick Dowd. Now, according to John Tortorella in his after-game media speech, he said he was pulling the goalie regardless of the outcome of the Red Wings and Canadiens game because I guess, again, Philly was chasing Detroit in the standings, but they were also chasing the Capitals. So I don't know. I'm just left scratching my head that if you're not aware of the situation, ask somebody, I guess. So a very heartbreaking loss for the Flyers. Tough way to lose. Had you not pulled the goalie, the game went into overtime. Maybe things could have turned out different. But yeah, a very puzzling move from my perspective. But I'm not a coach, so what the hell do I know? So for the Flyers, they would finish the season with a record of 38, 33, and 11. And the Washington Capitals, after getting a stunning win, actually made the playoffs with a record of 40, 31, and 11, they do have the number 2 wildcard spot as we speak in the Eastern Conference. Alrighty, the next matchup took place in Florida, where we had the Panthers, and they were playing host to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, this is intriguing for a couple of reasons. Had Toronto won this game, it would have automatically set up a first-round matchup with Florida, and if Florida had won, then they would have gotten first place in the Atlantic Division, and then therefore Boston would have dropped down to the number 2 spot in the in the Atlantic Division. So in the first period, John Tavares would open up the scoring, getting his 28th goal of the season from Mitch Marner and Morgan O'Reilly. A power play goal, 3 minutes and 25 seconds in the opening frame. Gregor would increase the lead to 2-0 with 8 minutes and 42 seconds to go. For Gregor, that would be his 6th goal of the season. So after 20 minutes of play, the Toronto Maple Leafs had a 2-0 lead. Verhaeghe would cut the deficit to 2-1, just 28 seconds in the second period. For Verhaeghe, that would be his 34th goal of the season, assisted by Bennett and Matthew Tkachuk. Speaking of Bennett, he got on the goal score sheet himself with 9 minutes and 28 seconds to go. For Bennett, that would be his 20th goal of the year, assisted by Forsling and Matthew Tkachuk. Sam Reinhart would get his 56th goal of the season, which is absolutely absurd, giving the Panthers their first lead of the game. And that goal happened just 10 seconds after Bennett scored. His assist would come from Barkov. Brandon Montour would increase the lead to 4-2 with 6 minutes and 18 seconds. For Montour, that would be his 8th goal of the year from Barkov and Tarasenko. So after 40 minutes of play, the Panthers had a 4-2 lead. They were down 2-0, got 4 goals in the second, and in the third, Sam Reinhart would increase the lead to 5-2, getting his 2nd goal of the game, his 57th goal of the season, assisted by Luster-Reinen, and that goal happened with 2 minutes and 20 seconds to go on the clock. So the Panthers claimed the Atlantic Division after this win. They are the number 1 seed. Toronto still finished with the number 3 seed of the same division. So Florida would finish with a record of 52-24-6, and the Leafs at that point were 46-25-10. Okay, so the next matchup took place in Winnipeg, where you had the Jets playing host to the Seattle Kraken. Okay, so coming into this matchup, the Kraken had really nothing to play for. They had already been eliminated. I'm pretty sure if Winnipeg won, they were guaranteed at least home ice advantage in the first round of the playoffs. In the first period, Kyle Connor would kick things off, getting his 33rd goal of the season from Mark Scheifele and Josh Morrissey, and that goal happened with 9 minutes and 27 seconds to go. Tomas Tatar would tie the game up, getting his 9th goal of the season from Belmar, and that goal happened with 1 minute and 12 seconds to go. With just 6 seconds remaining in the first, Kyle Connor would strike, getting his 2nd goal of the game, his 34th of the year, assisted by Morrissey and Scheifele. So after 20 minutes of play, the Jets had a 2-1 lead. In the second period, Nick Ehlers would increase the lead to 3-1. For Ehlers, that would be his 25th goal of the season from Toffoli and Pionk. And that goal happened 2 minutes and 30 seconds in the second frame. Yanni Gourde would cut the deficit to 3-2, 5 minutes, 11 seconds of that second period. For Gourde, that'd be his 9th goal of the year, assisted by Evans and Tanev. Cardi would tie the game up at 3 with 1 minute and 47 seconds to go. For Cardi, that would be his 10th goal of the year, assisted by Gourde. In the third period, Toffoli would get the game-winning goal, his 33rd goal of the year from Ehlers and Pionk, a power play goal with 8 minutes and 20 seconds to go on the clock. So the Jets would win this one 4-3. So with that, they're 51-24-6. They have locked in the number 2 spot in the Central Division. And after the loss, the Seattle Kraken are 33-35-13. Alrighty. And there's 2 more games from Tuesday's action of the NHL. So the next matchup I'm going to take a look at took place in Vegas, and they are playing host to the Chicago Blackhawks. So coming into this matchup, Chicago had very little to play for. Obviously, they were not making the playoffs. I think they were eliminated like a month or two ago. And as for the Vegas Golden Knights, they are making the playoffs. It's just a matter of where they're going to finish in the standings, as the Kings and the Golden Knights are fighting for either third spot in the Pacific Division, or they are fighting for a wild card spot as well. So there's no scoring in the first. In the second, McNabb would kick things off, getting his fourth goal of the year from Hurdle and Dorofiev, and that goal happened with 3 minutes and 35 seconds to go on the clock. In the third period, Amadio would increase the lead to 2-0, 7 minutes and 13 seconds in the frame. Jason Dickinson would finally get the Blackhawks on the board with 3 minutes and 58 seconds to go. For Dickinson, that'd be his 22nd goal of the season from Bedard and Kurashev. Nick Wall would increase the lead to 3-1, getting a late goal with just 1 minute and 36 seconds to go. For Wall, that'd be his 13th goal of the year, assist by Howden and Jack Eichel, an empty net goal to finish things off. So 3-1 would be the final score in favor of the Vegas Golden Knights. With that, they're 45, 28, and 8. They're still holding on to third place in that Pacific Division, but again, they're not locked in as we speak. And after the loss, the Blackhawks are 23, 53, and 5. Okay, and the last matchup that took place on Tuesday was between the Calgary Flames and the Vancouver Canucks. Okay, let's take a look and see how this game went. So coming out of this matchup, the Flames had nothing to play for. They weren't making the playoffs. The Canucks, I believe at that point, had already locked in their Pacific Division title. The first time they got the Pacific Division title since, I think, 2014 or 2015. So it's been almost a decade since this team finished first place in the Pacific Division. Tyler Myers would would kick things off with exactly 8 minutes to go in the first. For Myers, that'd be his 5th goal of the year from Bluger, and Lindholm a short-handed marker as well. Höglander would increase the lead to 2-0 with 6 minutes and 32 seconds to go. For Höglander, that'd be his 24th goal of the year, assisted by Pettersson and Mikheyev. In the second period, Dakota Joshua would get his 18th goal of the year from Garland and Tyler Myers, with roughly 2 minutes into that third period, giving the Canucks a 3-0 lead. In the third period, Patchell, if I pronounce that name correctly, will get his 2nd goal of the season from Kadri and Soliev, and that goal happened with 9 minutes and 4 seconds to go. And then JT Miller would increase the lead to 4-1 with 4 minutes and 58 seconds to go. For JT Miller, that'd be his 37th goal of the year, assisted by Pius Sutter. Excuse me. So with the victory, the game would finish with a 4-1 final. With the victory, the Canucks are 50, 22, and 9. Again, still first in that Pacific Division, or they finished first in that Pacific Division. And after the loss, the Calgary Flames dropped to 37, 39, and 5. Alrighty, that takes care of my recap from Tuesday's action of the NHL. As always, if you're new to this channel and you like this type of content, please feel free to hit the sub button. I'd be very grateful and very appreciative. Until next time, take care.